Okay, Damon, Jackie. All right.
Hey, Jackie.
Good evening.
Okay, we are live.
Okay, great. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday, November 16th meeting of the Carrboro Town Council. We'll start out our meeting tonight, Kathy, with our roll call.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Mayor Lydia Lavelle.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem and Councilmember Barbara Fouchie.
Present.
Councilmember Jacqueline Gist.
Present.
Councilmember Randy Haven O'Donnell.
Present.
Councilmember Susan Romaine.
Present.
Councilmember Damon Stiles.
Present.
And Councilmember Sammy Slade.
Present. Present.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. We will move on to start our meeting out as we do every meeting with a poetry reading by Fred Joyner. I think I see him over in the other room.
Hello, hello.
Hey, Fred.
Hi. Is Charles Harrington here tonight?
He is. He's in the other room. Would you like us to bring him over?
Please.
Okay. Kathy, can you bring Charles over?
Or I can see. Okay, yeah, he's here. I'll bring him over.
Great. This evening, I am going to read a very short poem after I do what I'm about to do. But the Poets Council would like to just first of all, I'm going to read this thing so I don't waste any more time. But this is a letter of thanks that we all came up with. Actually Jay Bryan drafted it and we all kind of signed off on it. And it's a letter of thanks to you all and to Charles for his help, for helping us with the festival. And it reads, to Mayor Lavelle and the Carrboro Town Council, as members of the Carrboro Poets Council, we come before you to first express our thanks for your approval of funding that we use each year to put on the West End Poetry Festival. Without that funding, there would be no festival. Second, we appear to express our deepest appreciation for the work and help of Charles Harrington, the Recreation Administrator for Parks and Rec, with the West End Poetry Festival this year and in the past. Until this past spring, we've been planning an in-person festival, and we're excited by the prospect of, after last year's virtual event, of poets gathering to listen to each other's words. Alas, COVID did not cooperate, and we had to pivot to a hybrid program of virtual event and outside venues. As we struggled to make the adjustment, we decided to see if Charles would join us at our meetings, which began in the early evening at 5:15 and ended before 7 p.m. and became once a week as we got closer to the festival. We are grateful that he agreed to meet with us. He brought the important perspective and knowledge of what resources the town could lend to our participation in carrying out the festival. Due to the energy and vision of the town's poets laureate, all the other poets laureate that read with us, it has grown. The festival has grown in scale, offerings, and audiences. This is a blessing and is also a challenge in terms of time our volunteer staff that we're required to expend. Charles brought to our discussions, which were for the last 2 months prior to the festival, every week, a calm and constructive, genial and organized thoughts. like a utility infielder in baseball. Our agendas began with reports from each of us, ending with Charles, who would share what he had done, what he was taking responsibility for, and what needed to be done, and by when. Always with a gentle smile of encouragement. Excuse my children in the background. He made sure banners were up and the signature slowdown for poetry signage was in place. He secured contracts and W-9s with presenting poets, and our sound engineer tracked expenditures, developed COVID protocols, and arranged publicity and press releases with the help of town communications director and with Jackie Helvey, who served as our communications manager. In addition, he identified staff to help during the festival. This year, he made sure we had chairs, tables, and water, like at the town commons and the Century Center in the event of rain, which we actually did get, but did not chase us inside. It might come as a surprise, but when poets gather, their passionate ideas, points of view, and wordsmithing fly around the room in all directions, and it's very exciting. In the midst of this creativity, Charles kept his head in focus, which kept us grounded and able to proceed with the festival. We know we are not the only beneficiaries of Charles's commitment and expertise. He is also involved with making other town festivals successful. The signs for the film festival are already up. So please join us and raise a virtual glass to Charles, a true Carrboro town treasure, for a job well done. Thank you, Charles. We are infinitely grateful to your efforts to a very successful festival this year. This letter is signed by all the members of the town council. Thank you very much. Give him a round of applause, please. You were a great help. Thank you so much.
Charles Harrington is the man. He the man.
It really is a privilege working with everybody.
Aw. Yeah, that's awesome. You're awesome, Charles. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, man. It was really a blessing. We really appreciate it. I'm just going to read a quick poem.
Thank you, Fred, to you and the Poets Council for doing that too.
And
that's
shout
awesome.
to the Poets Council because it's not easy to organize a festival, even when we have a generous town council that funds it. Getting poets together, getting artists together, and making this thing a success is not easy. And so the Poets Council, Susan Spalt, Gary Phillips, Maura High, Gideon Young, Paul Jones, Jay Bryan, and Abigail Browning. And then all the host of other people, Jackie Helvey, those folks help out and make this what it is. I'm going to read a quick poem. It's 3 lines, but it kind of goes, it's from this book again, The Illuminated Space, that I read from, and it kind of goes with the last piece that I read last time. Looking for one thing led me to see others. Waking to one thing opens up the potential of waking to others. So thank you all.
Nice.
And thank you, Charles, and thank you all for supporting this festival year after year. It really is a blessing, and it's something that we don't take for granted. We're very thankful. And Charles, we have a little thank you gift coming your way. So look out for that too. Thank y'all.
Thanks, y'all. Thank you, Fred, and
Sure.
and thank you again, Charles. It's awesome. All right, so moving on, folks, to proclamations. We've got 3 of these. The first one is Transgender Remembrance Day, and I'm going to read through this. Transgender Day of Remembrance is this Saturday. So whereas in 1998, Rita Hester, a transgender woman of color, was murdered, this crime remains unsolved. And whereas in 1999, Gwendolyn Ann Smith organized the first Transgender Day of Remembrance in honor of Rita Hester, and other transgender people who have lost their lives to violence. It's been observed every year since. And whereas according to the U.S. Transgender Survey, nearly half of the transgender community has been assaulted at some point in their lives. Nearly 1 in 10 been sexually assaulted in the previous year. Approximately 1/3 of transgender people in the United States have experienced homelessness. Nearly 1/3 were living in poverty, more than double the overall poverty rate. And whereas according to a 2018 report released by the American Academy of Pediatrics, 50.8% of transgender male youth, 41.8% of non-binary youth, and 29.9% of transgender female youth have attempted suicide. And whereas the United States has one of the highest rates of murder of transgender people, particularly for women of color, in 2020, at least 44 transgender people were killed because of hate, fear, and violent attacks. Sadly, 2021 has already seen at least 43 transgender or gender nonconforming people fatally shot or killed by other violent means, the majority of which were Black and Latinx. And whereas around the world, many countries make it illegal for transgender people to live as their authentic selves. And whereas there is significant incidence of misgendering or misnaming transgender victims of crime in police reports, indicating that the number of transgender victims of violence and murder is likely far higher than what is officially reported, and local law enforcement is not required to and frequently fails to report hate crimes, including murder specific to the LGBT community, general local law enforcement. And whereas transgender Americans are making historic progress, highlighted by non-discrimination laws enacted in several states and an increasing number of transgender elected officials, signaling greater public support for transgender equality and respect for their contributions to society, Congress and the executive branch must follow suit and act to protect and preserve the lives of transgender individuals through inclusive legislation. Now, therefore, be resolved, I, Lydia Lavelle, Mayor of Carrboro, declare Saturday, November 20th as Transgender Day of Remembrance in the town of Carrboro, and ask all residents to reflect on the challenges facing the transgender members of our community and to work to ensure that all social, cultural, and legislative progress continues to be made so that people can live safely as their true selves. This is the 16th day of November, 2021. So thank you all for listening to that and acknowledging that. That's this Saturday. Damon.
Lydia, first of all, thank you for the proclamation, which you've been doing every year now for several years, and I know that people in the community appreciate it. And I also want to thank staff for making it easy for community members to mark this day, this coming Saturday, which they've been doing the last few years to have a sort of a celebration of resilience in the trans community. They'll be doing this so again this Saturday. Finally, I just want to thank all of you again, my colleagues, for stepping up and making Carrboro one of the first municipalities in the state of North Carolina to protect transgender people, in addition to folks, other LGBT folks, in terms of their employment and their access to public accommodations earlier this year, something that Lydia led the way on for the last few years in coalition with Equality North Carolina and others. We are now up to something like 15 municipalities and counties covering more than 2 million or so lives in North Carolina. And people recognize this and they're aware of it and they know it. And I think in a state where we have a lieutenant governor, for example, who's using hateful language, doing exactly the same kinds of things that Lydia described are being done around the world to transgender people, for us to be standing up as leaders in this community to speak out is really important. So I just want to appreciate all of you for standing up and doing that. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Damon. Very well said. Appreciate those remarks. Okay, let's move on to our next proclamation. The next one we have listed here is the Care to Share Day. And this is OWASA. I believe Amy Armbruster is here to get this, Kathy.
That's right. I'm bringing her over just now.
Hello, Amy, can you hear me?
Hi, Lydia. Yes, I can.
Hi. Look, totally random. I don't know if I've ever asked you this. Do you have any family from Athens, Ohio?
I don't have any family
All right.
from Ohio. Do you know an Armbruster out there?
I went to elementary school with Annie Armbruster. I just wondered. So, okay. Just a little deviation there from the script of tonight. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and read this proclamation, Care to Share Day. This is like an annual type proclamation that we issue. Care to Share Day, whereas prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, over 22% of households in Carrboro were estimated to have incomes below $25,000, whereas the COVID-19 pandemic has had a profound impact on the local economy and many residents' incomes. And whereas at 4,000 gallons of use per month, the average water and sewer bill in Carrboro requires more than 11 hours of work at minimum wage to pay. And whereas since March 2020, when OWASA temporarily suspended service disconnections for non-payment in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, the average past due amount per customer has more than tripled to over $450. And whereas clean water is critical to public health and the vitality of our community, and whereas Orange Water and Sewer Authority, OWASA, is prohibited by law from providing discounted rates based on income, and whereas the Interfaith Council for Social Services, IFC, has partnered with OWASA since 1997 to provide water and sewer bill assistance to members of our community through the Care to Share program. And whereas over the last year, the Care to Share program raised enough funds to help about 105 households pay $200 down on their past due balances. And whereas it is easy for OWASA customers to contribute on their monthly water and sewer bill or through a one-time gift to the IFC's Care to Share program. And whereas during the month of November, we celebrate thankfulness for what we have. Now, therefore, be it resolved, I, Lydia Lavelle, Mayor of Carrboro, do hereby proclaim November 18th, 2021, so November 18th, I guess it's on Thursday, right, as Care to Share Day in the town of Carrboro in conjunction with the Orange Water and Sewer Authority, the 16th day of November, 2021. And so thank you again for highlighting this for us. We really appreciate it. And any remarks you'd like to make, Amy, you can make them now.
I just wanted to say thank you so much. As a town, you have been so compassionate all throughout the pandemic and given so much to make our neighbors in need who are really struggling to make ends meet, to pay things like essential services for water and water bills a little bit easier. So thank you. Thank you for caring. Thank you for doing. Thank you for being there for these folks in our community. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate you coming here, making those remarks, and everyone, spread the word, pass the word, Care to Share, round up, donate, give thanks. So we appreciate it. All right, then moving on to our last proclamation here. It's recognizing Small Business Saturday, and I think Scott Connery, Kathy, is in the audience to come over and accept this proclamation.
That's right, and should be popping over right now. Scott, if you're over here, we can hear you. Okay.
I'm back.
We can't see you. Okay.
Hey, Scott. Yeah, we can hear you. Hey, now we can see you. Hey, good evening.
Did I miss the proclamation?
No, I was waiting on you. So I'm getting ready to read it right now. So this proclamation is entitled Small Business Saturday. Whereas the town of Carrboro, North Carolina celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community. According to the United States Small Business Administration, there are 31.7 million small businesses in the United States. They represent 99.7% of firms with paid employees and responsible for 65.1% of net new jobs created from 2000 to 2019. And whereas small businesses employ 47.1% of the employees in the private sector in the United States, 88% of U.S. consumers feel a personal commitment to support small businesses in the wake of the pandemic, and 92% of small business owners have pivoted the way they do to business-wise to stay open during the pandemic. Whereas 97% of small business Saturday shoppers recognize the impact they can make by shopping small, and 85% of them also encourage family, and friends to do so. That should be 100%. And whereas 56% of shoppers reported they shopped online with a small business on Small Business Saturday in 2020, and more than 50% of consumers who reported shopping small endorsed a local business on social media or shopped at a local business because of a social media recommendation. And whereas the town of Carrboro supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities. And whereas there are over 387 small businesses in Carrboro, making up 96% of all businesses in Carrboro. And whereas Carrboro small businesses employ over 2,500 people and provide over 93 million in payroll. And whereas advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country, have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now, therefore, be resolved, I, Lydia Lavelle, Mayor of Carrboro, do hereby proclaim Saturday, November 27 as Small Business Saturday in the town of Carrboro. I urge the residents of our community to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. This, the 16th day of November, 2021. So, all right, there you go, y'all. Let's go out, shop a lot, shop an extra amount on the Saturday after Thanksgiving. Scott, do you have any remarks you want to give us?
Well, thank you. I'd love to add a few thoughts, and thank you for the opportunity to do so. As you may know, so I'm Scott Connery. I'm the owner of Carrboro Coffee Roasters and Open Eye Cafe, but I'm also an active member of the Carrboro Business Alliance. And on behalf of the CBA and our more than 100 local members, I want to thank you for this declaration that's so important. As you know, Small Business Saturday is a national recognized day now, always falling on that Saturday after Thanksgiving. And the day is dedicated to celebrating local business and encouraging everybody to shop small. And that's increasingly important. For several years, the CBA has participated in Small Business Saturday and also extended that through our Buy Local celebration throughout the entire holiday season. So our signature program called Carrboro Cheer was implemented because buying local is so important. Every time you make a purchase that's local, you are supporting local jobs. You're preserving the local character of our community. And just to add to all the statistics that you had, the simple one of 67 cents every dollar that you spend in Carrboro stays in Carrboro. And so the bottom line really is when we spend it here, we keep it here. So it's so important for us to keep it local. And it's my pleasure to invite you and everyone watching, really, to join us this year in supporting small businesses and buying local this holiday season. The CBA has many things planned as part of the Carrboro Cheer program to make it fun and hopefully easy to support small businesses. First, please join us on Small Business Saturday at the Carrboro's Farmers Market. The CBA is hosting a Buy Local booth and will distribute free local swag bags. There'll be a lot of fun local things in those bags for you to grab. Second, since we're still feeling the effects of the global pandemic, we are bringing back our Buy Local online gift guide. This Carrboro Cheer gift guide will feature more than 60 local gift ideas that will help you knock out your entire holiday shopping list in one local swoop. And you can find this at carrborocheer.com. Third, we encourage you to join us in making Cyber Monday, that's the Monday after Thanksgiving, which is the 29th, local Cyber Monday. So many local businesses also have an online presence, and this is another great way to use the Carrboro Cheer gift guide to select local gifts that you can buy. Fourth, we want to encourage in making Giving Tuesday. So that's the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. So we're really making it as broad as possible. On the 30th, again, make it local Giving Tuesday. Let's show our local nonprofits as much local love as we possibly can. And then fifth, please join us for on Saturday, December 4th, for the Arts Center's annual Elf Market, another great way to find local vendors and craft makers and support them. So finally, we encourage everyone to visit carrborocheer.com starting next week. Find all sorts of great local gifts and ideas this holiday season. Really help support all those small local businesses. Mayor, council, and staff, thank you for making this declaration, for your support of the Carrboro Cheer program, and for spreading the word to shop small this whole holiday season. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Scott. Great comments. And thank you for all the extra information you gave us, especially reminding us about the Monday and then the Tuesday too. And really the whole month, Carrboro Cheer. So that's really, really great. All right. Okay. Thank you very much. Kathy, moving on now to announcement of upcoming meetings.
Okay, between now and your next meeting, you have a Racial Equity Commission, November 17th at 6 p.m. The Affordable Housing Advisory Commission will meet the 17th at 7 p.m. The Climate Action Team will meet November 18th at 7 p.m. And then you all will meet December 7th for the organizational meeting and swearing in ceremony.
Okay, thank you. I have tomorrow morning, I have a Visitors Bureau Board of Directors meeting. Does anyone else have anything else to add to the list of meetings? Susan?
I don't have a meeting. If anybody else has meetings, jump right on in. I just wanted to make another announcement.
Okay, I think Damon, did you have a meeting you wanted to announce?
I was just going to note that there is an NPO meeting coming up, although it's not next week, but it is before our next meeting. So I wanted to note that that meeting is happening on the 8th of December. Actually, I guess that's not before our next meeting. Sorry. Anyway, there's an NPO meeting in December, and it's very important because we're talking about the long-term plan that you all of us have been doing a lot of thinking about. So looking forward to that.
Okay. All right. Very good. If no one else has anything for the calendar, then I'll go back to Susan.
Yeah, I have something else for the calendar. I have my hand up.
Oh, I can't see it. It's over that portrait. So go ahead.
That's okay because it's brown. It's a brown hand, brown like mine. It's okay, Mayor.
Yeah, it's on that picture. So Barbara, look at it.
It's covering me up. Let me move it. So yeah, the Community Home Trust is having their annual meeting Thursday at 6 p.m. and it's open. You just have to register to attend. Thank you, Mayor.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, let's see. Back to Susan.
Yes, just one event I wanted to be sure got recognized is the Carrboro Film Festival is back. November 19th through 21st. It'd be nice to be in person to watch movies again. The movies will be at the Arts Center. My understanding is attendees need to have bring a vaccination card, have proof of vaccination. More information can be found on the Town of Carrboro website. Thank you, Lydia.
Great. Susan, thank you for remembering to bring that up. I appreciate that. All right, so let's move on then, Kathy, to public comment. And I think our list has 3 people to speak on matters that are not on the printed agenda, the way I have it. We've got Kevin, Shelley, and Ian. I think
have 4 Abel. Well, oh, sorry, matters not on the printed agenda. I'm sorry. Yes.
So let's go to Kevin and Shelley first.
Oh, I'm not seeing them. Let me make sure.
I don't see their names either.
Okay, I did send them the link. I was just looking back to make sure I got them the link. I do not see them.
Okay, well then let's head on then to the consent agenda.
Ian Richardson.
Oh, it's Ian. I'm sorry. He may be there. Let's see.
He is.
All right.
Good evening. I'm Ian Richardson. I represent Merritt's Gravel Pit, TIK LLC, Tony and Eileen Merritt, and Caitlin Merritt. I just wanted to comment briefly on something that was shared last week. We saw on screen from Shelley and Kevin a photograph that had the date October 12th, 2021. It had a blue rectangle and the words, "The TOC Merritt Settlement Agreement demanded that the area within the blue square be revegetated before TOC would dismiss the case with prejudice." I went back and reviewed the settlement agreement and looked at the photo a bit. And I'll point out that at least some portion, if not the entirety of that blue rectangle, appears to be within the shared easement area that currently exists between 3100 and 3200 Damascus Church Road. The reason why that is important is if you read the last sentence of paragraph 2 on page 2 of the settlement agreement, it says the words, "No vegetation is required within the location of the recorded easement." So I would just encourage all of you on the council, whenever you receive these presentations with photographs and words and rectangles, to simply consider the source. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. Appreciate your comments. Okay, so moving on here then now, Mr. Manager, to the consent agenda.
Okay, the first item is the approval of minutes from the October 19th and October 26th, 2021 meetings with changes by Councilwoman Romaine. Item number 2 is Police Department monthly reports. The purpose of this item is to provide a brief overview of calls for service for the month of October. The third item is the Economic Development monthly report. And the purpose of this item is to provide a report on the regular monthly activities of the department. Item number 4 is the Stormwater Utility monthly report. The purpose of this item is to provide a monthly update regarding stormwater utility projects and initiatives. Item number 5 is the Fire Department monthly report. The purpose of this item is to provide the Town Council a monthly overview of calls for service. And item number 6 is a request to authorize the Town Manager to extend the contract with Santec for design services relating to the East Main Street restriping project.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Barbara? Barbara?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move the entire consent agenda if there's not. I see Sammy and Randy, so I'll move whatever.
Okay.
I think they're going to pull something.
All right.
Sorry.
Okay, so Barbara's wanting to move everything. I think I saw Randy's hand up first. Randy, are you wanting to pull something?
Yeah, I just had a quick question on the minutes. I think it was October 26th that, and I'm sorry because I don't get lined minutes, but Susan had a correction, and I believe it needed to say Orange County Southwest Branch Carrboro Library. And I had submitted that, but I didn't hear whether or not that was the final correction. That's what I'm asking about.
Okay, so you have a question about number 1. And Sammy, did you have a question about anything else?
Yeah, I just was wanting to, sorry, I haven't had a chance to look at the October 26th meeting minutes, if we could postpone approval of those.
Okay, so let's have a motion. The motion is for 2 through 6 by Barbara, second by Damon. All in favor, say aye. Randy?
Aye.
Damon?
Aye.
Barbara?
Aye.
Me, aye. Jackie?
Aye.
Sammy?
Aye.
And Susan?
Aye.
Okay, and then as for the minutes, I can't remember, was that correction to the 19th or the 26th, Susan, that we made about the library?
Oh gosh, I think it was the 19th, but I'm not 100% certain.
You remember, Kathy, which one it was? Because Randy, I think
pulling
Kathy,
it up right now.
Yeah, Kathy got that. She got that correction, so she was going to go ahead and correct it. I just want to see if it's the same ones that Sammy wants us to hold.
Okay.
Let's see. I think it was.
It's for the 19th.
So the correction was for the 19th. So, by way of clarification, y'all, it was just the instead of it saying the Carolina Library, I think it says the Friends of the Carrboro Branch Library. That was the correction, right, Randy?
Well, yeah, I'm wondering if it needs to specify that it's the Orange County Southwest Branch in Carrboro.
I think it was, let me just look at it really quick here, sorry.
That's the official name. That's the reason I asked.
Is it called is the official name Southwest? I thought it was Southern Branch.
That's the Southern Branch.
Yeah, but I think that the change needed to be the change was just Friends of the Carrboro Library. I thought that was what the change
I think I found it in the October 26th meeting minutes. Am I missing something?
Yeah.
Kathy, Sammy's saying it was in the 26th one.
I think Sammy's correct because I think I just glanced and it was.
Okay. All right. So we'll take a motion.
Sorry, I was looking at the wrong line item there. Yeah,
Okay.
it's,
All right, so let's have a motion for the 19th and we'll table the 26th till the next meeting. So motion for October 19. Motion by Susan, second by Randy. All in favor, say aye. Randy?
Aye.
Damon?
Aye.
Barbara?
Aye.
Me? Aye. Jackie?
Aye.
Sammy?
Aye.
And Susan?
Aye.
Okay, so those October 26 ones, Kathy, that'll be January. So, okay, Mr. Manager, I think we're ready to go with our public hearing.
Okay, the next item is the public hearing on the Carrboro Connects Comprehensive Plan. The purpose of this agenda item is for the town council to hold a public hearing and receive public comment on the draft comprehensive plan, Carrboro Connects 2022 through 2042.
All right, and are we having Trish? Yes, Trish.
Yeah, and Kathy, can you bring over Teresa Lockamy, Scott Goldstein, and Ben Brelsheimer too?
Yep. They are actually all on their way over.
All right, great. Thank you, report key to live to see you. Okay, thank you all so much for your attention and continued support to this really important matter. I'm Trish McGuire, the planning director, and here with me this evening are Teresa Lockamy from Lockamy Consulting, Scott Goldstein from Tesca Associates Incorporated, and with their able assistance and that of the Center for Neighborhood Technology, we are here tonight to share this draft plan with you. I've also got asked Ben Brelsheimer to come over. He's one of our staff members, but he's been a real behind the scenes part of the planning effort. Many of you have seen him before in our meetings and so forth, but he's been a contact person for the community and he's not been a really much of a face of the plan, but I thought I should share him with you all this evening so he can have a chance to see you too. Our consultants have, with the community, guided and assisted us tremendously to formulate the draft that we have to share with you this evening. I've got a couple of slides to share as well. So, excuse me for 1 second. Got that. All righty. We're pleased to be here, so appreciate your attention. We've got a planned our plan for the presentation this evening is to do an overview of the plan foundations, an update on the engagement for the plan, a summary of the plan, and really principally the changes that have occurred since the preliminary draft was shared a little over a month or so ago, an outline of next steps, and then provide time for public comment. Just want to bring everyone's attention to the agenda packet itself, which it did include a resolution to refer the draft plan to the planning board as a statutory requirement, but to other advisory boards as well. We did include a draft of the plan in the packet, of course, a summary of changes, which I should note is not an exhaustive list. Scott's going to share a little bit about that in the presentation. We did take the meet with the task force last week for their recommendation on this step in the process, and we've also included a process and outreach timeline for you, for the community. So just a reminder that that this plan is structured so it is centered on two core foundations, and the first of those is race and equity, and then the second is climate action. The foundations are interwoven throughout the entirety of the plan. The commitment to race and equity is a longstanding effort and a significantly increased one in recent years, and particularly with the towns joining Government Alliance on Race and Equity, establishing the core team, training the core team in advancing racial equity, the role of government, and we have shared that training with all of our staff, with members of the task force, the newly formed Racial Equity Commission, and we are in the process, our consulting team for this project. And we are rolling it out to other advisory board members as this month, last month, this month, and next month. The second principal foundation for this plan is climate action. And as everyone is in the room aware, the town has already adopted 2 plans which deal with climate action. These plans are intended to be readopted as part of the comprehensive plan, along with a few other recently adopted plans like the bike plan. The climate action plan seeks to further the climate action goals that were in those earlier documents, does this in every section of the plan, and seeks to give a wider tools for the implementation of the ambitious goals, but necessary goals that we have included in those plans. I'm going to hand off the speaking now to Teresa Lockamy. Teresa.
Good evening. We have used a variety of techniques to engage the community. The pandemic created opportunities for us to use every tool in our engagement toolbox that we could. We've actually utilized in-person outdoor pop-up events that happened in June. There were 7 task force meetings, 2 very highly interactive online community workshops, a host of interviews with stakeholders, and a website that's been viewed over 4,000 times. We did 2 Facebook Live events. There were town-wide mailings and a variety of social media outreach. To date, we've had now over 6,300 website visits, and in that number includes 1,100 visits to the preliminary draft and related pages on the site. So we've had comments that were in addition to the community workshop. We've received over 40 written public comments and written comments from 12 advisory boards. And in addition to that, we focused on doing outreach from additional organizations. They've either taken place or we have plans to do them with organizations including El Centro and Refugee Community Partnerships. I'll pass the baton to Scott from TESCA.
Thank you, Teresa. So just a snapshot of input that's been received in the plan from a variety of sources in terms of using direct language, using action verbs, obviously to ensure, as Trish talked about, a fundamental foundation of race and equity and climate change throughout all elements of the plan. A focus on implementation. The last draft was submitted as a preliminary draft to get ideas. We've then used that to develop a very detailed implementation plan and table, a very detailed 5-year plan that you'll see in your document. The importance of downtown design and appearance was in the plan, but really wanted to be highlighted. So that is now lifted up in both the economic sustainability chapter, as well as the land use chapter, as well as other business districts in the town. The importance of green stormwater infrastructure, again, that was in the plan, but we have now separated out the chapter. So there's now a chapter at your request the last time we met with you at the work session. We now have a chapter on transportation mobility and then a separate chapter on green stormwater infrastructure, energy, and water, really to make it easy to use the plan. At the end of the day, we want the plan to be as easy to use as possible for everybody. And then there were also many, many suggestions for the quarter plan. So there's a lot more detail. Those are found in the land use chapter. Go to the next slide. So when we all met with you in September, we just shared the preliminary draft plan. Since then, there have been several different meetings. There was an update on September 21st and a work session on October 5th. There was a community open house on September 22nd, Carrboro Connects Task Force. There's actually been a total of 8 meetings. There's September 23rd, as well as one last week. Again, all the advisory boards, we really want to thank all of the advisory boards and the staff for compiling very detailed notes. And so throughout this process, there have been hundreds of comments, but I think you'll see that the integrity of the plan has stayed, that there's been very consistent input throughout the entire process. And really, this has been enriched over the last 4 to 6 weeks in terms of making the document even stronger. So the last slide I was going to present is what's new in the plan. There are specific revisions and edits throughout the document. Again, I think those edits really enriched and added detail to the implementation of those ideas. Improved navigability. So that was one of the things that you really asked for last time. There is now really on page 2 of the plan are all the goals listed. So you can start right away and people can find what aspect they're looking for. People tend not to read plans from the beginning to the end. They really want to find out what the topic it is that they're looking for. And those are all up front in the plan, in the new plan overview. There's a new section on language. So this is a really important point. There was a lot of input on the language used in the plan, particularly related to race and ethnicity, and we take that extremely seriously. So we want you to look at that section of the plan, both the town council and the community as a whole. The language of the plan reflects the language that was used in the engagement. There was a lot of research. Some task force members gave us specific references to AMA, Journal of American Medical Association, recommendations, and other organizations. And so a lot of the time we're using BIPOC language throughout the plan, but we really wanted to reflect the language that was used in engagement, and we appreciate feedback from all of you going forward if that is the right language to be used. We expect that to evolve over time as language evolves in Carrboro over time. But it's a really important point. The maps, again, are more detailed. Future land use map, we did get comments on the future land use map. There's changes on that, really showing the future land use along the corridors as well as the town as a whole. I mentioned there's a very detailed implementation plan. There's also highlighted topics in the plan where there were different comments coming in, either from the public or from advisory boards. So we tried to highlight those in the plan for all of you to make the policy decisions to the town council on important issues of open space and park space, the requirements for parking. There are a number of different issues where we got different input and we didn't make a decision between one and the other. We really want to move that along to all of you to make those policy decisions. There's also a glossary of terms in the back. Those used to be in separate chapters. We consolidated those. We expect that element to grow as the plan evolves. And I'm going to turn it back to Trish.
Thank you, Scott. Yeah, really thousands. We think there might be more than hundreds of changes in this version, so it'll be happy reading for everyone. We did include, as I mentioned, in the packet a recommendation from the task force, and the words of the recommendation are on the screen here, that the comprehensive plan proceed to this public hearing portion of the process, that the draft plan represents the collaborative effort to this point by the task force and reflects an inclusive community process that has resulted in the set of visions, goals, strategies, and projects for the town going forward into the future. So this public hearing process will allow further deliberation and review of the draft plan. We included in your packet a resolution for referring the draft plan to the advisory boards, and it does include room for you to refer it to all of the town advisory boards. We think we've gotten them all there. We have a lot. On the screen is a potential schedule for those advisory boards to review the draft after consulting with the staff liaisons for those groups. I will point out that while some members of the climate action team saw and reviewed the draft materials of the plan earlier this year as members of the environmental advisory board, that new commission's or new team's opportunity to review the draft is expected to be at their December meeting. They are meeting this week for their first real organizational meeting to select a chair, understand the climate action plans, and do some other business. But we expect their December meeting and possibly their January meeting to be the first official review of the this draft plan. We do expect that there'll be continued revisions as we hear feedback from the community and our advisory boards in their additional review. You will also note on the screen and in the agenda packet, we noted that dates for continuation of the consideration of the plan, looking first to February 22nd as a time when we think the advisory boards will have gotten through. We'll have had a chance to circle back to some of the groups we've been in contact with before, as well as others should they arise as we're in this step in the process. And we are looking to the possible adoption on the March 22nd, the second date noted there. So we are looking forward to hearing comments from everyone about this draft. And those are our slides for the evening. Happy to answer questions as is most helpful to you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, Trish. Thanks, Teresa, Scott, Ben. Thanks y'all for being here. Thank you for all your hard work. So council members, we have several people signed up to provide comments from the public. So I think we just go ahead and start hearing from them if everyone's good with that. Okay. And Susan has agreed to be our timekeeper for the soft 3 minutes. So thanks, Susan. We'll do what we usually do, Kathy. We usually bring over a couple at a time just to kind of have two over here, I guess, just for ease. So the first two on the list that I have are Amy Singleton and Leanne King.
I don't see Amy there, but I think it would also be helpful for me if you are here to speak on this item, if you could raise your hand, and that way I can make sure not to miss you. And then if you've called in, I'm actually not seeing anyone that has called in, but if you do call in, I will know to bring you over. I'm expecting people to call in on this.
So let's go ahead and bring over, is Leanne King there? And then if not, the next name I have is Brandon Mirande.
Leanne's here.
There we go. Leanne's over here now. So Leanne, we'll go ahead and hear from you first. You have a soft 3 minutes to chat with us. It's good to see you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm Leanne King. I live at 203 Pleasant Drive in Carrboro. I'm very excited to review the draft of the comprehensive plan. I actually have not been as engaged in this process as I wanted to, mostly for personal reasons, but this is what I do all day, every day for the last 20 years is write comprehensive plans. And I'm so excited to see the plan that's been developed for our great town. And I really am thankful to all the folks that participated in this effort. First off, I just want to say kudos to the task force and staff and the consultants. I think this is very well written. It's very understandable. The framework, I think, is really helpful at sharing what's really kind of our important goals for this community. The priorities are very clear. There's good historical and technical supporting information. And I'm really happy. Our community is one that likes to achieve a lot of things. And I think it's good to have that prioritization, because I think one of the ways plans often don't get accomplished or maintain their credibility is you try to bite off too much. And so I think it's really helpful to have that prioritization in this draft that you've got. I was also really happy to see that affordable housing is a top priority. I think it's a linchpin for all the issues that we're trying to address in this community. We have to do that first, otherwise the rest of the things we're not going to be able to accomplish. So I was really happy to see that at the top of the plan, one of the first issues that you see. I'm also very supportive of the affordable housing bond strategy, and I was glad to see that that is included as one of the priorities to be accomplishing. Last couple of quick things, the future land use. Very supportive of the diversification and densification of Pleasant Drive community where I live. I think it's a great opportunity to further our kind of eclectic, inclusive place that we have here. I've always wanted to write a story about our neighborhood because we've got, I think, one of every type of housing you can find and fathom in this neighborhood. And I think it's a great opportunity to be expanding upon that. We're part of the Estes and North Greensboro corridor opportunities, so area. The only recommendations I have are pretty minor, I think. little things like I think the maps maybe make them a little more legible. They were a little hard to read, could have been my printer, but providing some explanation of the future land use categories. They may have been in there, I might have missed it, but I wasn't finding that immediately. And then a couple of follow-up items. Once the plan's adopted, you might want to consider establishing an implementation committee to kind of continue the good work that's been started and follow up on implementation. They can help with reporting and metrics and kind of tracking all of the things as they get accomplished over time and really kind of keep the planning effort alive. So I will end there. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you. Thanks for your comments. Okay, so next, Brandon Mirande. I hope I'm saying his name right. And then also Lisa Brown, Kathy.
Okay, I'm bringing both of them over.
Hi, thank you. I do not believe I signed up to speak on this item, so I do not have any public comments at this moment. Sorry.
Okay, and Brandon, what item did you sign up to speak for?
No, this evening I simply requested the Zoom link to listen in.
Got it. Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you.
So we'll go ahead and hear from Lisa Brown then. Lisa, you got a soft 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Hi, how are you all? Good to see you. I just wanted to say hello and thank you. Now helping out on the NTA, and I just wanted to give a huge shout out to all the hours and edits and amazing work. We worked closely with Marty and the team, and I just can't say thank you enough. I also am incredibly impressed about what we saw. The first one we saw, and then the one and all the things we submitted, and here we are, and there were just so much detail added. The plan itself is, I reflect upon the past speakers, same, I agree completely with what she is saying about the legibility, following it. I wanted to go back and forth. You all have made it so that we can. If I think a question and I want to go in, it's an easy it's almost like a really good research document. So thank you. I applaud Carrboro for this level of detail and leadership, and I really hope you'll continue the good work, and I look forward to staying involved. Take care.
Right. Thank you, Lisa. We appreciate you coming here to talk to us. Okay, let's see, Kathy. Next, we have Bob Proctor and Chaz Gardner.
Okay, they are both coming over.
Okay, we'll start out with Bob first, and then we'll go to Chaz. So Bob, go ahead. You have a soft 3 minutes.
Okay, hi. Thanks for having me.
Hey there.
I'd like to share my screen. Carrboro Connects refers to the green space next to the Davy Graveyard by the name The Commons. In the first draft of the comprehensive plan, this bubble asked if the space should be left open or if the graveyard should be expanded. I'll suggest how the burial traditions of our remaining long-term local families can be largely met. But first, setting that aside, 12 passages in the first draft imply this space should remain open. These passages are listed on my new website, savecarrogreenspaces.org. Vision 10 in the first draft states that all people will have equitable access to recreational activities, including parks and green spaces. Vision 1 says, promote equitable and sustainable use of land and natural resources that promote the values of the town. In this map, this tract is near the center of the dark purple highest priority area for a new park. So let me see if I can unshare the screen here. Okay, stop share. So Council Member Fushi helped me meet with Town Manager White and Public Works Director Snipes. Kristen Benoit updated some numbers. Last year, it was said that Davie would have plots until 2027, but it now has less than 3 years. In 2014, Chapel Hill switched its 9 acres of land next to its graveyard to affordable housing. They soon stopped selling plots to everyone. Carrboro still sells plots to anyone. This graph shows a moving average of Davie's total sales. So Chapel Hill stopped selling plots in 2016. Our sales jumped up from an average of around 12 down here to around 47. And then when COVID came on the TV news, planning by families increased the sales to a current 65 per year. There are only 95 left. This is a 40% increase due to COVID. So we're going to run out of plots by 2024, 3 years earlier than expected.
That's just about 3 minutes.
Okay, I'll wrap up. To open a new cemetery, Gary Phillips says 3 acres near Jones Ferry and Damascus Church would cost only $90,000. That's just 3 miles and 6 minutes from Davie. I hope you will soon buy land and skip planning for its first acre. Folks using Davie don't require stylish landscaping or newfangled burial methods. They want affordable plots. When the town sells those plots at half price, many of them will choose that peaceful setting. Please act and do what it takes to give our dense, modest side of town the park it deserves, even if it comes years after the sparse, well-off side was given the unwalkable MLK Park. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Bob. We'll hear now from Chaz Gardner. Chaz, you have you're up. You have a soft 3 minutes to speak with us.
Okay. Well, I've been at work for 12 hours. I just got off a little while ago, so I threw some of these thoughts together. I've lived on Fidelity for 20 years and have been pretty much the only single family residence on Fidelity. This is kind of unusual in such a high dense part of town. I feel the park at the end of the street that's acted as a de facto park for many residents for many decades, with dog walking, things like that, have often said it would be a great place for a park myself. And I was approached by Bob the other day to say something. So I went down and counted how many of my neighbors were apartment dwellers. And I see that White Oak next door has 96 units, Fidelity Court at Davie, if you include those, there's 73, Hillcrest 50, Village Square 36, and on the other side of the street, so on and so forth. But there's close to 300 people living in residence down here. And for most of the last 20 years, we would bike to Anderson Park and Wilson Park and many of the parks in Chapel Hill and stuff like that. But it would be a gem of a park in downtown Carrboro for 3 or 4 reasons. It is an ideal location close to downtown Carrboro. Its vast size alone would you could easily fit 10 town commons or 30 Weaver Street. I know it's a public space, but 30 or 40 Weaver Streets in that space alone. Its natural beauty with the vast sky is one of the biggest open skies in Carrboro, and only the people who live on this street get to enjoy the beautiful sunsets every single night over Fidelity Court going west. The stars, when they're shooting at night, it's a great place to go look at shooting stars. But lastly, I think one of the most compelling things Bob said was the disproportionate imbalance of the location of current parks close to private residents and not near such a high concentration of as the apartment dwellers in this section here demonstrates the shifting migration of the more affluent newcomers and unfortunately the current residents that are being priced out of Carrboro. Not all of us are as fortunate as some of the new councilman over on Stable Avenue to have his own little neighborhood with a playground and pools and stuff like that. So going along the entire stretch of that whole side of Greensboro Street, they have their properties back up against Bowling Forest. They have Wilson Park. They have Martin Luther King, stuff like that. But it really would be a nice place for a park. And I don't know how soft the 3 minutes are, but I did see an article on the NNO last week stating that Chapel Hill came in dead last as the entire state, the cities with the least space for public green spaces in all of North Carolina. And I'm not surprised by this because I spent 10 years from 95 to 2005 trying to convince them to turn parking lot number 4 into a beautiful centerpiece park in Chapel Hill. And it fell on deaf ears and eventually got talk started. And we ended up with a big 8-story building there and a little smoking sculpture that they paid $350,000 for, and they call that piece of concrete a park. And it's no secret that Chapel Hill rides Carrboro's coattails for as long as they could. Only 20 years ago, 5 or 6 of the top things to do in Chapel Hill on their website were Farmers Market, Town Commons, Weaver Street, music festivals, Cat's Cradle, everything was in Carrboro. Everybody in Chapel Hill comes to Carrboro's parks. But,
That's just about 3 minutes.
I understand. And thank you. That's all I could put together in the last few minutes. But my kids, my wife wants me to say that at White Oak, we've witnessed in 20 years, almost no children living there. And in the last 10 years, there are 4 or 5 families with 3 kids each. There's only 2 bedrooms in those apartments. Okay, so those are some of the shifting. Those people would be renting little inexpensive houses on Pine, Oak, Cheek, and High Street. They're all torn down for little McMansions. So this is the shifting demographics that would lend the argument for a park in that space. And I'm not opposed to the cemetery. Okay, that's my 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Chaz. We appreciate it. Okay, so Kathy, I think we have maybe Quay Trimble, and then I am not sure if we have anyone else about the comprehensive.
Okay,
plan.
I'll bring Clay over and I'll check for the other ones.
Yeah, because I don't think Patrick was able to come, and I don't see Amy. Clay, can you hear us? Hey there, Clay, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Sorry about that.
Yeah, go ahead. You've got a soft 3 minutes to chat with us. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you all too, council members and Mayor Lavelle. Thanks for having me. I'm joining you today to also talk about the topic of the green space at the cemetery at the intersection of Fidelity and Davie. So I'm a resident. I live in Village Square, and I was fortunate enough to buy a townhouse in 2018. And it was about the only property that I could afford in Carrboro. But like many other people on Fidelity and Davie, I don't have a yard. So I have a dog and I have a 10-year-old, and I'm in a single parent household. So a lot of the time in the evenings and the weekends, we spend walking the neighborhood, and we spend a lot of time in the open space next to the cemetery and actually in the woods, because my townhouse is right next to the woods. So we enjoy exploring the woods and throwing the ball for the dog, and just enjoy being outside. So I just wanted to join you all today to express that I'm in favor of preserving that open space next to the cemetery and potentially improving it in some way. I'm a member of the community garden in Carrboro, and it's about a mile for me to walk there, ride my bike there. And it would be wonderful to have a community garden closer, or to have a dog park closer, because we do frequent other Carrboro parks and amenities. Just having more and having better access to these things can never do harm, I feel like, to a community. And we really love it here, and we hope to stay. And that's really all I wanted to say. So just showing my support for Bob and Chaz. I thought they were great. Bob, thanks for everything that you've done. And just another shameless plug for Save Carrboro, greenspaces.org. Thank you all.
All right. Thank you, Clay. Appreciate you being here. Okay, so let's see. Kathy, do we have anyone else in our little waiting room to talk to us about the comprehensive plan?
I do not have anyone else signed up, but if you're in the audience and would like to speak on the comprehensive plan, and that's why you're here, if you'll just raise your hand, that will be helpful.
I think we're good.
That's all. And I don't see anyone with the phone.
Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead.
Councilmember Haven O'Donnell has her hand raised. I thought it was someone in the audience, but
no, I was going to go ahead and just close the public hearing, and then I'll go to Randy. So go ahead, Randy.
Okay, did you we close the public hearing?
I'm closing the public hearing. Let's go to Randy.
Yeah, so I just wanted.
Sorry, may I make a point? Lydia, do we continue this public hearing from what I read in the materials to the February meeting?
I don't know if we continue it till then or if we have another one then. Kathy, Trish, what was your intention? Was it to continue this one until February, or is it to have another one then?
Well, this is a legislative hearing, so I think, Nick can correct us. I think you can close the hearing, but it doesn't prevent us from engaging with the public, and so it's fine. And we can, you don't have to have the hearing open when you act on this plan itself. We may do an advertisement or something like that just to make it clear, and we certainly will do outreach. So, but it's not technically there is no technical need for you to keep it open. That would be my take on it, and Nick may give a thumbs up or tell me differently. But
I agree with what Trish said.
Yeah, Nick, do you agree? Are you okay? All right, so that makes sense. We're going to continue to take feedback, and then we'll have another public hearing on February 22nd. Of course, after all the advisory boards hear it. So we'll go to Randy, and then we'll go on to other folks if anyone else has any comments. So Randy.
Okay. I had sent an email, and I was in email correspondence with Manager White about the recommendation that was made to staff November 2020 to ask staff to explore the possibility of having a looking at cemetery property, possibly in the rural buffer, and the possibility of having a park that would be respectful of the existing cemetery. And, I'd like to ask staff to follow up on that. I know it's been a year, but we haven't heard anything. And I'd like us to pursue that opportunity to explore for properties beyond Carrboro. Even if we went with some plan to shoehorn in as many memorials as we wanted to at Westwood, it's a short-term solution to a long-term problem. So I really feel like we need to be thinking more of where the future needs us to be. And in addition, I think having the park on the space where the topography is questionable anyway makes a lot of sense. It's wonderfully located for the neighbors, and it's also contiguous to a historic African American community. So I would ask that we have staff come back to us maybe before February, when the next public hearing is on this item, on the comprehensive plan, or schedule a date to just discuss this item.
Okay, before we go to Barbara, then Damon, then Sammy, I just wanted to remind folks that just of our most recent review of this item, right? So as we know, last November, it was on our agenda, but it also was on our agenda in March. And in March is when we asked for it to come back to the council. I think we got a presentation that night of a possible plan around the cemetery. And we asked for the item to be brought back to council with information related to grave pricing and a sliding scale to make sure prices were equitable. And so it seems like that was the last word by this council in March. And so it does seem like there needs to be some more conversation among this council about the direction, because the previous direction before that was, what about a park? And I think I remember that we had some mixed conversation about that on here. So
yeah, it was never complete, right?
Okay, yeah, so let's go in order. We've got Barbara, and then Damon, and then Sammy.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Lavelle. And so I just wanted to weigh in. The land that is currently Westwood Cemetery was purchased for the specific purpose of a town cemetery. It's been that for decades. Am I open to discussion? I certainly am. I realize the importance of having a town cemetery. I don't think we should be dictating how folks decide to lay their loved ones to rest, and also be able to come back to those same spots for periods of reflection, quiet reflection. I also understand the importance of open green space, especially in light of the pandemic. I mean, it turned a light bulb on for all of us. We all were just outside was the place to be. You know, it was the safest place. But I don't want us to get too far ahead with this conversation. The land that is currently the cemetery is paid for. We're talking about going out in a rural buffer or wherever else, finding a piece of land that we're definitely going to have to pay for, again, for the same purpose. When we have community members and town priorities that folks are looking for us to rise to the occasion on. So it's like we're paying for the cemetery twice when we already have this space dedicated and paid for the town cemetery. Now, I'm open to discussion. If there is a way that we could integrate, you know, quietly into the expansion of the cemetery, I'm open to that too. But I just want to raise the point about the money, regardless of the amount of money. You know, nobody's going to give us a tract of land out there and just say, oh yeah, y'all go ahead with the cemetery. And it's not like we're not going to have to do something if we were to purchase a new tract of land. You're going to have to prepare the land for what the purpose is. And so I just wanted to kind of go ahead and bring this into the conversation before we have our next conversation, which I look forward to. This is, to me, like a community building activity and just kind of working together, you know, with these two issues running in tandem: expand the cemetery, leave a green open space. It's definitely not, to me, not an all or none scenario, because each issue is important to somebody.
Thank you, Barbara. That's great. Let's go on to Damon and then Sammy.
Thanks for those comments. I agree with the sentiment about this not being a sort of either or conversation. I also think it's important. Lydia, thanks for reminding us. And I think the manager gave us in a previous email, he sent us this rundown of what the council's previous directions, plural, have been to staff in exploring questions around the cemetery issue. And I would be, you know, if there's interest in the council, and if we need, it sounded like the manager was interested in having us reaffirm that direction by asking those questions again. I'm happy for us to do that, as long as we're including all of those questions, not just the ones about, you know, like locating an alternative site, for example. There was other direction from those March and November meetings. But I also want to step back here and recognize that we are having a public hearing here about the comprehensive plan. And the good news for those folks who have joined us, and I appreciate the speakers who talked about the Westwood Cemetery property, is that the consultants and the staff, I think, have done a really great job of reflecting the complexity of this particular conversation about the cemetery property in the draft comprehensive plan. And it reflects that there is a multitude of opinions about the issue. It's not something that the comprehensive plan itself is going to or is meant to solve, and we're certainly not going to do that tonight. I just want to make sure that folks who spoke on this issue tonight understand that the new draft of the comp plan does incorporate language about this exact discussion that we're having here right now, and that's something that we'll have to wrestle with as a council over the next whenever longer period. So, you know, I want to just make sure we bring this back to the topic of the public hearing, which is the comp plan. And so if there, you know, if there's interest in reaffirming our previous direction to the manager about the cemetery issue in particular, I'm happy for us to do that, but I want that to be reaffirming all of our previous direction to the manager, not simply the direction regarding finding an alternative site out of the town limits. Thank you.
Thanks, Damon. We'll go Sammy and then Susan and then Barbara. Is your hand up from earlier or is that up again? So we'll go Sammy and then Susan.
Yeah, I'm up again, Lydia, whenever everybody else is
I'm
sorry, Sam.
I'm in agreement. I think this obviously merits a work session conversation. I think that the fact of the grave sites being bought so quickly, given the closure of Chapel Hill site, puts an extra urgency for us to address this, and also in light of the plans that we have been looking at in terms of expansion of the cemetery. So it's not something we can wait too long to do. So in that spirit, I would like to second Randy's motion, including anything else folks feel needs to be included in that discussion, respecting what Barbara's brought up, Damon's affirmed, and you know the multiple perspectives, both also the motion from March asking specifically about pricing and sliding scale. So it will be a pretty rich conversation.
Okay, and just by way of backing up here again, Randy, can you succinctly state your motion?
Yeah, well, I wanted to be inclusive because, you know, Damon's correct, it shouldn't be limited, but I was asking to reaffirm the request that was made to, one, explore the possibility of having the cemetery in, you know, other space outside in the rural buffer. Two, the potential of having a park that would be respectful of the existing cemetery. Three, that we look at what was discussed in March with regard to sliding scale, the grave pricing and sliding scale, but also inclusive of other areas of discussion, which Damon alluded to but didn't enumerate. But there are multiple facets that need to be discussed.
Okay, so in particular, scheduling a meeting to cover those information around those three areas you just mentioned, which were covered in the last two meetings, and then just discussion of that at a work session of those information about those three items, and then discussion about them. So scheduling that for an upcoming meeting, perhaps work session. That was Randy's motion. That was Sammy's second. Okay, right. Is that your understanding, Sammy?
Yes, that sounds great. Thanks.
All right, and we'll vote on it in a few minutes, but let's go to Susan and then back to Barbara.
Yeah, thank you. I'll look forward to supporting your motion, Randy. I wanted to also just say a couple of comments about the comprehensive plan. I really appreciate the comments of the speakers this evening, and I agree entirely in terms of how it's just written in such a clear way. It's very easy to navigate through the comprehensive plan, find specific information that you're interested in. I thought a lot of the pictures were just stunning. I'm not sure who took all those, but they were just absolutely stunning. I was reminded this evening, actually, and maybe this is for Trish, but it would be actually really nice to somehow work Fred Joyner's voice into the comprehensive plan. I don't know if it would be a poem that he will have read that sort of captures the hopes and dreams of Carrboro, but it would be nice to have his voice there if it's possible. And then the only other thing I wanted to add was that I loved the introduction to the comprehensive plan, and I think that picture of the task force where everybody was on Zoom, it really just sort of captures this moment in which it was written. I love that picture. But it also, and then there were so many other challenges that everybody was going through in terms of writing this comprehensive plan. But also it's a great opportunity. And this was the one part I didn't see in the introduction, and I didn't know if we wanted to add it, but, we're having sort of this once in a lifetime massive, shot in the arm from federal funding. And so here at the same time that we're rolling out the comprehensive plan, we will have, we're just in a very unique position to be able to really put some of these things quickly to work. And so that was one part in the introduction that I just wanted to suggest as possibly including, because the timing just seems so perfect for all this. But I do want to say thank you to everybody who has worked so hard on this. And it's really, we're now really enjoying the fruits of all your hard labor. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Susan. Let's go back to Barbara.
Thank you, Mayor. And so my comments are about the comprehensive plan as well. Shout out to the consulting team, Town of Carrboro staff, the task force, the community, everyone that has been a part of this amazing process. And oh my God, in the midst of a global pandemic. I was just thinking about the slide that Trish had up earlier, just like, was it Trish or maybe Teresa, about the outreach, the different ways, that we got, that we reach folks within the community. And it's just been amazing, and I'm just proud and just like hand clap of praise like 1,000 times over, to everyone involved in this amazing effort. And I'm really proud of what we have thus far and looking forward to, there's probably going to be more outreach, I presume. That was one of my questions. Was there any planned outreach? I know that folks can weigh in, but one of my questions was, is there any more planned outreach? And I also took note that North Carolina General Statutes 160D 501 is needed before July 1st of next year. That was, and February 22nd and March have been designated as meeting dates. Is that task force or is it coming back to us in some way? What kind of meeting dates are we talking about? But just a job well done. I especially like, which I'm just thumbing through here recently, is the implementation part. I really like what I'm seeing there. It's just, it just looks really good, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Barbara. And I think that I recall that advisory board meetings in November, December, January, maybe February 22 coming back to us. I think that's kind of the rough timeline there with that. So.
Oh, okay. Any planned outreach? Any other planned outreach, or we're just letting folks weigh in?
We are, we're working to circle back to those. We had the Facebook Live events. So that would be the Refugee Community Partnership and El Centro. We are trying to figure out the best way to engage with families through the schools. And we'll do a number of other things. So we did actually reach out to all of our local government partners at the staff level and some regional staff too, to get their sort of planning perspective on the document that we put together. And we'll be doing things like that. Yes, absolutely. We haven't got a full schedule for that yet, but that needs to do that. So yes, we'll be, and I mean, we'll do directed outreach to those, because we now have this public hearing draft, to those individuals we had engaged with throughout the process to come to the community meetings and everything, to ask them to take a deep look at the things that are most relevant to them, youth leaders, church representatives, things like that. So, and see if we can get more feedback from them and thumbs ups or things we need to add. So
can I just drop, I'm sorry, Mayor, can I just drop in a couple of things from, I think it's from Patrick Madanaho. So he talks about the document and just needing more time to read and absorb it. Which that's coming. We have time, to do that. And a suggestion was future drafts should have a what's changed since prior drafts section, just so folks can keep track of the changes. And he also said consider. The word consider was used 127 times. Who's counting? And he said about that number, maybe needing to go down, the word consider. So I just wanted to drop that in because he couldn't make it in tonight. But you guys, you've done great. I can't say it enough. Thank you.
Yeah, well, you've been very instructive, but also so supportive and engaging people in the community from where you all sit and participating in the task force meetings and the community meetings. And so I really applaud you all and we thank you beyond applauding you. We really thank you for that too. So I did want to just say, yes, July 2022 is the deadline for us to have at least the land use piece of this adopted. We hope the whole thing will be adopted by then. I think we have time to do that. Thank you.
Thanks, Trish. We'll go Damon and then Sammy.
Thanks. Just echo all the thanks to the staff and the consultants for all the hard work. And Barbara, thanks for mentioning Patrick's comments. Those are great. Just wanted to return, Lydia, to the motion that's on the floor, which I believe has also been seconded, and offer what I think is a friendly amendment, if Randy and Sammy will consider it, which is, can we just remove reference to the rural buffer and just say alternative location? We don't have jurisdiction over the rural buffer, and I don't know why we would have specified that to the beginning.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so just wanted to return to the motion. Yeah, thanks.
Damon. Thank you, Damon. Sammy, after you go.
Yeah, and when we're ready to go to the resolution around the comp plan, I'd be happy to be recognized to make that motion.
So we'll return to the Randy Sammy motion as soon as Sammy, maybe after whatever comments you have.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, I just want to echo gratitude to all the work from the consultants, the comprehensive plan, the advisory board, the community at large input. It's quite an impressive document and really good job at the presentation. I really appreciate it. The implementation new chapter is really helpful. But one thing I do want to mention in terms of the implementation one is in terms of climate action goals and kind of the emergency represented by climate action. We have a very specific time frame for achieving that, as represented by both our climate action plans and a resolution. And I just would like to refer the resolution regarding climate action goals and budget plan to the consultants so that they could take a look at that and consider how to fold it into the implementation chapter, because it's very specific about our goal and the timing for it. And the reason I think it's important to look at that is because if you break down 5 years and identify very specific climate action items, there's a big question as to whether we're meeting what our intention is as represented by the resolution and the climate action plan. So I just want you to be aware of that and have an opportunity to integrate it as best you can within the comprehensive plan. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Sammy. And let's go to Jackie next.
It's an amazing piece of work, and I want to thank our staff for their leadership and also for our consultants. But it's just another example of how Carrboro can come together to solve problems and deal with problems. I would like to suggest that there are different priorities that some may see as conflicting. And one way of dealing with that is upfront. So if there are groups that to meet their goals, they need to come to common ground, I would suggest that be done ahead of time rather than emerge as the plan's getting ready to be passed. So I know it's been it's been a wonderful coming together of the community, but there are some goals that conflict. And I think it's better to deal with those conflicts up front and arrive at some common ground rather than have them derail the plan or not get full support from the plan as it's implemented. So that would be my suggestion. We have a history of being able to do that with facilitated community meetings. I think assuming that everybody agrees on everything is a false assumption. And it's better to work that out ahead of time rather than at the end. So that's my suggestion going forward.
Thanks, Jackie. I appreciate that suggestion also. And I want to give a big round of thanks to everyone as well. I feel like for the last 4 or 5 years we've been saying, hey, we're going to have a comprehensive plan. And I can hardly believe we're almost on the back of it. We've almost, that in 2022, it will be finalized. So that's really, really exciting. Okay, so first of all, let's do the motion that Randy made, that Sammy seconded about the cemetery stuff. Let's do that one first. So all in favor of that motion, say aye. Randy?
Aye, and I'll second Damon's motion on the comprehensive
All
plan.
right, Damon? On this one, on the cemetery one?
Aye.
Me? Aye. Barbara?
Aye.
Susan?
Aye.
Sammy?
Aye.
And Jackie?
Aye.
Okay, and so then Damon, you were gonna make the motion to pass the resolution sending the draft plan to the advisory boards, and I'm assuming that you want to check off all of the advisory boards that are on there?
Yes.
Okay, so motion by Damon to refer that to all those advisory boards, and second by Randy. So all in favor, say aye. Randy?
Aye.
Damon?
Aye.
Me? Aye. Barbara?
Aye.
Let's see, Susan?
Aye.
Sammy?
Aye.
And Jackie?
Aye.
All right, very good. All right, we've got that continuing to move along. So thanks, everyone. Thanks for being here for that. It's really awesome.
Thanks, y'all.
Fun discussion.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Manager, we're on to our next agenda item.
The first item under other matters is a request to apply for additional funds for the South Greensboro Street Sidewalk Project. And Tina Moon, our planning administrator, will present this one.
Hey, Tina.
Oops, sorry. Good evening, everyone. I'm trying to swing my screen over real quick, if I may, just so I can show you a PowerPoint that shows these figures so that we're all talking about the same thing.
Okay.
That's okay. Okay. Oops. Are you seeing the right screen?
Seeing one that has live captions and subtitles. That's what it says right now. Got it?
Okay, that's not it. Let me see what I get. Sorry, I have two screens and this happens sometimes.
I understand.
Let's see if I can figure out how to resolve this. That's not it either. Oops.
If you want to hit stop share while you mess around, you can. We're seeing captions and subtitles right now, but
Yeah, apologies. Let me see if I can figure this out.
okay, we see one now that's
Is
it looks
that
like
working?
it's a PowerPoint that hasn't started the slideshow yet, but we see it on the right and on the left. We see all the slides. So
Okay. Let me see what happens when I do this.
it just hasn't started. If you hit from the beginning, it might come on there, but
Okay, is this it?
you look like
I'm sorry, I've not had this problem this badly before.
so if you go up to the top left and hit from beginning, it doesn't. Yeah, it seems like it's stuck or something.
If you don't mind, I'm wondering if maybe I should just pull myself out of the Zoom and try again.
I think end your share. I think instead of leaving the Zoom, end your share and then start it again. I think that maybe you had it right at the beginning and you just needed to click got it on the box that was up, the one that was about transcription.
So just hit stop share and then start again, Kathy. Is that what you want?
Yeah.
I'm not able to find the share. Oh, there it is. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. And if you can't do it, I can do it as the host. I can stop your share.
Can you do that for me?
Yep.
Okay.
That should have brought your screens.
I will try to do that in a different way.
I think whatever you did the very first, it was working just fine. And then there was just a new, maybe an update has occurred in PowerPoint that was giving you an option that we haven't seen before.
Okay, let me try this one more time. Okay, success.
Yep, there you go. Good job.
Just the big screen? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, apologies for that. And here I thought I was being so clear and straightforward. So thank you, everyone. As mentioned in the introduction, the purpose of this agenda item is to request authorization to seek additional funding for the South Greensboro Street Sidewalk project. There are two parts to this request. The first one is to request allocating roughly 3/4 of the town's local discretionary or direct apportionment, depending on your terminology, to the project by way of a STIP amendment. This amount, which is the 476, represents both the federal 80% as well as the local 20% portions. We have sufficient transit funds already in the budget to cover the local match, so that the net yield to the project budget would be approximately $380,800, and this aligns with the current preliminary cost of the project. The second request would be to address some of these new costs related to replacing an Owasso water line, something that we learned about relatively recently in our discussions with DOT. So we are looking quickly for potential funding sources that could be used to cover this. One of these funding sources is to apply to the MPO through their new program, which our MPO board liaisons are familiar with, which is the Regional Flexible Funding Program. And this is a new effort of the MPO, rather than having individual call for projects for all of the different funding sources, to combine those and do a single call for funding project. And I have to provide a note of clarification. In the agenda materials, the request is to apply for CMAQ money. We had a conversation with our MPO colleagues this morning, and their recommendation was, rather than to specifically apply only for CMAQ money, to apply for this broader pot of regional flexible funding. That provides us with a lot more flexibility, as well as an opportunity to withdraw the funds if it turns out we don't need them, or to reallocate them back to the overall MPO pool, something that wouldn't be available with CMAQ. So that seems like a smart change to make. Some additional information, which I think is important to understand. Typically, the engineer's estimate, the formal estimate for the cost of construction, comes at the end of design. And so our expectation, knowing that there would likely be some additional expenditures, would be that we would request allocating our direct apportionment money to the project at the time that design was complete. We're in a situation now where we have almost $700,000 of direct apportionment that we've been holding in reserve, either for this project or to apply to a couple of our other projects that are a little farther along. And so by moving forward now with our the first request to allocate some of those monies towards the project, will make our request for the regional flexible funding to pay for the water line much more competitive. The MPO, part of the interest of pursuing this regional flexible fund approach has been to keep money more available so that projects keep moving, and discourage the partners or individual local governments from holding money in reserve or banking it, so to speak. So this would be a good faith effort on the part of the town to start using that money. Both of these requests will require a STIP amendment, and the next STIP amendment is scheduled for the spring. this timeline gives us a little bit of an opportunity to seek some other funding sources, hopefully one that wouldn't require a match, such as ARPA or another potential federal funding program. And if we find another source of funding, then using this flexible program will provide us again with a little bit of opportunity to move some things around. So this is what the ask is in this item for tonight. I did want to draw to your attention, I believe through the clerk, you should have received an updated resolution for your packet. And this clarifies that the second request is to seek the funding through the Regional Flexible Funding Program rather than specifying the CMAQ. So I'll stop there and I'm happy to try to answer any questions.
Thank you. Thanks, Tina.
Sorry.
Yeah, so everyone, we got this, late in the day, we got this updated resolution that he is referring to by email. So let's go first to Barbara.
Yeah, I was just going to ask that the updated resolution be shared on the screen if possible.
Let me see if I can do that.
I can share it if you want me to, Tina.
I think I've got it.
Okay.
Okay, is this?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'll make it a little smaller.
Okay, so this is our resolution for consideration. And as we see near the bottom, rather than saying CMAQ, it's making it more broadly through the flexible funding, the RFF program. And so that's the significant difference in this one, right, Tina?
Yeah, that's right. That's really the only difference, is to change that from a reference to CMAQ to this regional flexible funding, which means the funding could be TAP or regional STBGDA.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Are there any questions from anyone, and or does someone want to make a motion for this resolution? Susan.
I'll make a motion for the resolution, and also I have a quick question, Tina. In the notes, there was mention of a 12-inch line.
Yeah.
And I noticed the resolution is just about the 6-inch line. So does this mean we've given up consideration of the 12-inch line?
No, we haven't. The reason for identifying the 6-inch line, I think, is at this point is twofold. One is that up to this point, OWASA hasn't been comfortable indicating that they would be able to contribute to the cost of the project. And so we were focusing on what was needed to move forward with the sidewalk proper. The installation of the 12-inch line would likely cause more delay in terms of having to actually close all of the street down instead of being able to keep one lane open. And so until we talked more with OWASA about potential improvement that they would see by going with the 12-inch line, something that we would use the term of calling it a betterment, we felt that it made sense to identify this initial amount just to get something in the hopper for this December 10th deadline. Our understanding in talking to OWASA, and again, these are just preliminary conversations, is that if we were to move to the 12-inch line, OWASA would likely pay for the increased cost of going from 6 to 12, to make that betterment, so to speak, of going to the larger infrastructure.
Susan, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. There you go. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you made a motion. So I need a second to your motion. Does someone want to second Susan's motion for the resolution? Barbara is seconding the motion. Okay. So let's go to Damon has his hand up.
Mine was just up to second. That's fine though. It's seconded.
Okay. All right. Great. Very good. All right. So if there's no further discussion, we'll go ahead and vote on the resolution then. All in favor, say aye. Randy?
Aye.
Barbara?
Aye.
Me? Aye. Susan?
Aye.
Sammy?
Aye.
Damon?
Aye.
And Jackie?
Aye.
All right. Very good. So you're good to go, Tina. Thank you. All right, Mr. Manager, we're on to our next item.
The next item is the Green Track Resolution approving the draft recombination plat and conceptual plan. This is for council to consider approval of the draft recombination plat and conceptual plan for the 60-acre portion of the Green Track in county ownership and the 104-acre portion of the Green Track in joint ownership between Orange County, the town of Chapel Hill, and the town of Carrboro.
Hi there. I was
Hey, Trish.
having a few slides to walk through with you. This action on this tonight, if you do proceed with that, is long coming. The decision to for the local governments to consider using the Green Track for purpose other than the landfill expansion was really started in 1999, and then followed by some early subcommittee work amongst many of our elected officials starting in the early 2000s. And then following the 2012 Historic Rogers Road Neighborhood Task Force work, really an important component of actualizing the local governments, the community's commitment to the Rogers Road community. And that we have seen, the community center at RENA come to life, the sewer project constructed, and then really deeply digging into planning for the future with the mapping our community's future, community engagement and planning. So this strategic planning for the Green Tract was part of the recommendations of the Historic Rogers Road Neighborhood Task Force back in 2012. So I'm glad to be here with you tonight to share a little bit of an update on where we are with that and the items that are before you for action. I've got a few slides to share. So most recently, the background information that's relevant to this topic is the 2020 resolution that all the local governments adopted early in 2020. And that resolution included the identification of land use acreages for the Green Tract, initiated the environmental assessment for the property, and as well as initiated drafting of an interlocal agreement and the recognition of the potential for reconfiguring the Headwaters Preserve, which is the 60-acre portion owned only by Orange County of the Green Tract. The interlocal agreement was adopted in April of 2021, and following the completion of the environmental assessment in the summer of 2020, presentation of that, public engagement on that, and most recently we did, working with the MMC, bring that information to the community, as well as the information you're seeing tonight, the draft reconfiguration of the property and the conceptual land uses. So we had 2 public meetings just a little over a week ago. What we have in front of you for consideration, it's really a resolution pertaining to the property here, which you can see outlined in the left-hand map that shows the existing ownership of the property. So about 164 acres of land, 60 acres in Orange County's ownership solely, and the remaining 104 acres owned by Orange County, the town of Carrboro and the town of Chapel Hill. The proposal sorry about that. we're looking at would reconfigure the area that's shown in green on the top area shown in green on the left-hand map into the similarly shaded green on the right-hand map, takes that 60 acres and reconfigures the environmental assessment work to identify the most environmentally and culturally sensitive portions of the property for that reconfiguration. And then we also identified through that process additional green tract preserve that should be set aside, absolutely set aside in any future use of the green tract itself. The other shaded areas on the map, the yellow area and the blue area, are those areas expected or proposed for development, with the blue area specifically identified as a public school and recreational site, and then the green for the several different land uses that have been identified, principally affordable housing and mixed housing. So the purpose of our meeting tonight is to consider the draft resolution. And we are just checking if you all have received, I believe it was emailed today, but Kathy, Marty may be emailing it over, then you can share on the screen the updated version of it with that addition from Councilmember Siles, just to be sure that we have the language correct for your consideration. But the resolution that you have in the packet, mostly that version, slight wording regarding the just one change to it, does.
Trish, we did get that by email today with that just slight addition of the Rogers of the saving the Rogers Road plan. So.
Yes. And we did note this evening that particular resolution, I still think does refer to unless Kathy changed it, does refer to the Board of County Commissioners acting, as opposed to you all.
Oh, okay.
if we can have your permission, if you do move forward with it, to make the change there.
I must act. Yep.
Have you guys act instead of the commissioners in that resolution. That'd be great. So we are asking for you to approve the draft recombination plat, shifting those property boundaries on the two portions of the green tract, and approving the conceptual plan, which does have the placement of acreages as shown in the attachments and just now on the screen. So happy to try and answer any questions.
Okay, so folks, we do have one person signed up to speak, Abel Hastings. So we'll go ahead and bring Mr. Hastings over to speak to us. And then after that, we can chat about any questions or comments that we have. So Mr. Hastings, hello, good evening. You have a soft 3 minutes to chat with us tonight. Good to see you.
Great, fantastic. It's great to see all of you. 167 acres should be enough to do two things with, but somehow we found a way to turn this debate into a this or that decision. I'm sure I'm not alone in saying that affordable housing and preserved green space matter, but a cynical person could say that driving a wedge between a community that agrees on affordable housing and agrees on green space and environmental stewardship is a good way to get ahead in today's politics. I have firsthand experience that community members can work together. People like Minister Campbell, Bishop Larry Reed, and Karen Reed and Sally Council were part of the 2016 team that wrote the Rogers Road report. I was not, but I was part of the Neighbors United around the Green Tract. Like the 2016 team, this citizen group took part in an inclusive planning discussions that talked about tough issues. We realized that if we dig a bit deeper than Twitter allows, we all pretty much agree. I don't believe that this development plan reflects the community's common themes from 2016 nor now. The plan you'll be voting on tonight has a few features that are alarming to me. You can tell us that the document will be used in ways the community wants, but the reality is that the thing you're voting on tonight does not preclude you from options that are financially more attractive. For example, the preserved land, which is much smaller than before and does not reflect the guidance from your own environmental experts, now would allow for the installation of infrastructure and utilities such as roadways, public water, sewer, and stormwater facilities. Does a clear-cut roadway and sewer line sound like preservation to you? It doesn't to me. The development area can include affordable housing, yes, and that's great, but there's no restriction on the amount of market rate or commercial development. Does that mean that 80% could be market rate and a Starbucks could be there? The law only limits you to 80% market rate. That seems a shame. In addition, there are no limits on density. The only time we've ever talked about density, we included options up to 20 dwellings per acre. If the intention was not to put another aura or 2 or 3 on the property, then why not write it into the proposal? The lack of limits on density seems like a glaring omission. And finally, there's no mention of the remaining land being a park. We all know that the Green Tract is Chapel Hill's largest forested park. While unofficial, we all have to admit tonight that we are voting to turn a park into development. I'm sad that we didn't follow through on the recommendations of previous teams to turn the Green Tract into both development and a park, because 167 acres should be big enough to do both. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hastings. Appreciate you being here. Okay, so council members, I'll just start out with a few brief comments, perhaps in response to some comments I just heard. But, you know, as Trish said, and Trish, correct me if I'm wrong, but what we're doing tonight is kind of reaffirming what what this board has already voted on twice, and then also doing this kind of recombination of these two tracks in a way so that we can, you know, have those maps we saw earlier, those with the broad strokes, so we can more closely align the sensitive areas, the environmental areas a little more tightly, and then also be able to identify kind of more specifically where we might have the housing and the schools and the housing on the eastern side. Conversations around what that looks like, how that'll happen, how much housing there'll be, what it'll look like. Those conversations are still to be had. Right now, we just voted, as we have twice before, on the broad strokes of what that would look like. And we're also, all 3 jurisdictions are doing it this week. We're doing it tonight. Commissioners are doing it tonight. Tomorrow night, Chapel Hill's doing it. So we all have kind of the exact same resolution kind of going forward, and the recombination going forward in the new year. So comments from anyone? Let's see, Sammy?
Yes, thanks. I'm very glad that we're finally moving ahead with the Green Tract. You know, when last time we voted on this acreage breakup, it was in large part informed by what I believe was environmental assessment done in-house by staff. And it was that identification of primary constraints that we should be preserving that led to an awareness that the original idea of having much less development, as reflected in the reimagining document that the Rogers Road community very much informed, was much more than that was reflected in that document. As we've received some very good emails today on both sides, that's one of the reasons they were talking about an acreage that was much smaller. But we've learned that the sensitive areas are less than what was originally thought. And then we did another environmental assessment, in large part prompted by Chapel Hill. What I value in that environmental assessment is much more granular detail as to what the value is in terms of preservation of Bowling Creek and the other 2 other streams that are emanating and starting from this property. One of the things that stood out to me was the need to safeguard the salamander, and specifically in terms of the wet areas that they require in the adjacent forests that are required for them to live in. And environmental staff, we're talking about 150-foot buffer on top of the already looked at 150-foot buffer. So my question is, it seems like because of that the initial assessment, which identified the acreage in half that we would do for development and conservation, that we kind of are trying to fit what we're conserving relative to what we knew from the original environmental assessment. And what I'm afraid we might be losing out on is reflecting what this newer environmental assessment describes in terms of safeguarding the habitat for an endangered species. And so I would like for us to consider that when we talk about how much we're setting aside for development or joint preserve, that we speak of it in the same way that we're talking about a minimum of 16 acres for public schools, that we talk about a maximum of 66 acres for housing and mixed use. Because after all, as Mayor Lavelle pointed out, this is a general broad stroke, and there's a lot more detail that will be fleshed out. And like with the original iteration of this that we approved, we're already seeing that that's kind of set the tone and set the stone in stone, kind of what we think is viable, irrespective of new information that shows that there is valuable reasons for safeguarding more in terms of preservation. And we're at, originally we're talking about 20 acres for development or thereabouts, and now we're at 66. So what I think, I don't know what the answer of this question is, but I would like to understand, and I know that the leaders of the various jurisdictions have talked about this, but what does the map look like where there's 150 extra feet around the buffer? And I know that's not in the headwaters portion because that's already including that, but for the portion that is jointly owned, what does that represent acre-wise? I mean, if we're talking about 63 acres versus 66, is it unreasonable for us to consider that as a valuable thing to do, given that it is so significant in terms of what it represents for the viability of that salamander? So I just raised this question because I think the first speaker spoke to these don't have to be black and white decisions. Like, we're not choosing between affordability and or preservation of nature. There's some opportunity to address both, and there's still remaining questions, and I'm afraid that we're just setting it all in stone because there's a wariness of well, I mean, I understand, like, the process has been slow and this could just be another wrench in the gears, but what's the cost? Are we talking about needing to ignore realities of other beings that we need to be helping out, in this case, the salamander?
Sammy, thank you. I'll just briefly state, and then we'll kind of move on here from others. It does say approximately 22 for the green tract, approximately 66 for development, approximately 16 for the public school and the fields, right? So it seems to me like there's a little wiggle room just even in just that nomenclature, because I know, like, even the school thing, right? We're thinking 16, but who knows? They might come back and say I need 18 or 20. Who knows? So, or it, I don't know. I just want to say, set in stone, it still says approximately. So
yeah, and I hear you, and I really hope that we read approximately the way you're interpreting it, and that's remembered as what it is. I would feel a lot more comfortable if it was something like a ceiling.
Yeah.
Because that's
well. Let me say this before we go on to other people. I kind of really don't want to make any changes to this because everyone's voting on the same thing tonight, and it makes me a little, but I hear the comments, and of course Damon will carry forward with direction from you all and what a sense of what you all want in those conversations to then kind of bring back. Let's go to Trish next, and then we'll go back to Damon.
Thank you. I just wanted to emphasize two things. This is a proposed schematic for the future of the property. And so the preserved areas are really expected to be the minimum areas. And what the staff have discussed is that when development plans are proposed for those other areas outside of the preserve, that we would all use the lens that we use currently with regard to environmental sensitivity. So there may be additional we expect there would probably be additional open space in the developed portion, for example. So I think that is consistent with the way all the three local governments consider those environmental areas. And so these are sort of the minimum set-asides. And then the other point I wanted to make, well, they're tied together, is that the interlocal agreement requires all three local governments to act jointly in every step of this process. So as those additional decisions are made, development agreements may be scoped out, development parameters are considered, any engagement with the community outreach and engagement, all of that is supposed to occur jointly so that we are working together, in unison. And we're all kind of, in that regard, sort of checking one another on these points of interest to try and advance the interest of the community and the property. So those are just two aspects of it, I think, that were kind of pretty thoroughly vetted by the MMC in framing how we could move forward to this point and hopefully further.
Thanks for that, Trish. Let's go Damon, then Barbara, and then Susan.
I appreciate Trish offering those responses because they're really important, and they highlight for me what's also important here, which is that this is approving a conceptual plan. This is not a development document. It's not a development plan. We're essentially being asked here to affirm acreage and land use designations that we on this council have actually affirmed 3 times. We did so in 2019 unanimously. We did so in 2020 jointly with the commissioners and the Chapel Hill Town Council. And we did so again this year when we adopted the interlocal agreement. In all 3 of those instances, we agreed to these designations. So that's not new here. What is new is applying what we've learned from the environmental assessment to inform how the platting is done for the recombination. That's it. And so I appreciate Trish also sort of spelling out that, and Lydia as well, giving some more of the background about how each step of the way here, there is this intent to move together. And it will have to be informed by other regulations that we and other jurisdictions also have in place. So for example, as Trish mentioned, to the extent that some of these areas will be developed, they'll be developed according to existing regulations like open space requirements, other constraints that are in place, just like we would for any kind of development review. Those rules will be in place. And the way we've talked about it in the past is that we would use whichever jurisdiction has the most stringent rules. Those are the standards we would expect to be applied. So that's on top of the 80 plus acres being identified here for absolute preservation. So I just wanted to share that, and I'm very comfortable moving forward with this resolution. It reflects the next step in the process that we outlined we would be using in the interlocal agreement. There are no surprises here, and it's an important step for us to take to keep this moving along.
Thank you, Damon. Appreciate those comments. We'll go to Barbara and then Susan, and then maybe back to Sammy.
Yeah, so again, thank you, Trish, for laying everything out. I especially appreciated the in-person walkthrough event at RENA, and also the next day, the virtual presentation to just kind of go from then to now. And also Lydia, Mayor Lavelle, for pointing out, about the approximations around the acreage, which I heard, through Sammy were some of his concerns. So we've been at this since 1984. Let's move forward with the conceptual plan as is written tonight. No more chaos or confusion, knee-jerk reactions, cart before the horse mentality. Let's just move forward with what we've already started and voted on prior to tonight. And so with that being said, I would like to move attachment 1, make a motion to move attachment 1, which is the resolution that is in our packet. Actually, it's not the one in our packet. It's the one that we got via email with the change, which I think by our mayor-elect Damon.
And with the change that it says Carrboro, not Orange County.
Carrboro, not Orange County. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. So motion by Barbara and then second by Damon.
Yes, I'll second.
Okay. And then so we'll have a little more discussion before we vote on it. So we'll go to Susan and then back to Sammy. So.
Thank you. Yes, I too really appreciate the opportunity to attend the community open house, where it was great seeing everybody there and seeing some of the designs. And also I really appreciate the virtual open house, and it was helpful hearing different voices there. And thank you, Trish and Lydia, for this more background information tonight. I'm very much in support of the resolution moving forward. This is our next step. I'm excited to take it. And in terms of the next step, I just wanted to, this by no means affects the resolution tonight, but in the next step, I just wanted to throw out a couple of ideas, and actually I mentioned something that Randy had said as a part of this, but it's the consistency of some of the language being used. And so one example will be the affordable housing versus, I also hear Minister Campbell often refer to the mixed income housing. And so that would be helpful for me as we move forward, as if we're always talking about, is it affordable and mixed income housing that we're always talking about? I think it is, but I don't know for sure. And I want to make sure I'm reflecting the desires of the Rogers Road community on that. The other thing, I know it seems small, but it would help me, and maybe it would help others. I see the acreage for the jointly shared acres. Sometimes they're referred to as 107 and sometimes as 104. And I know that's probably just rounding, and I get that. But even when I look at the final part of the resolution, the be therefore, there's 107, but when I add up the different acreages, don't you know, it's 104. So I'm hoping as we move forward, whatever we decide on, and again, I think it's a rounding thing, but just to have that consistency, it's always 107 or it's always 104, would be helpful for me. And then,
Susan?
Yes.
Can I chime in on that just real quick?
Mm-hmm.
Because that actually was a subject of discussion today with me and Pam and Renee. Trish, do you want to explain that?
Sure. When the property as surveyed and its actual by description is 107 acres, but 3 acres of it is in the railroad right of way. So it's not designatable as one of our land uses. So that's why the land uses add up to 104 acres, because 3 of them are in railroad right of way. And we've never discussed that. And it was when the surveyor was out checking the deed description and surveying the property, they identified this difference in the acreage. So the property itself is 107 acres, but 3 acres of it is not available for us to designate.
So maybe, so maybe when in future documents about this, that little reference can be made for people like us that notice that 3 acre difference and wonder what it is. So, but yeah, thank you for catching that.
Right. And then the only other thing I'll mention in terms of just sort of having these shared terms, when the term development is used, I know right now we're just talking very broadly, but as we move forward, are we talking residential and community commercial, which I think we are, and can that be spelled out as well, so people are just really clear that this is what the intention is in terms of the development. And then finally, I guess this is sort of a question. So, as Damon has mentioned and Lydia has mentioned, we've now agreed to these designations. It sounds like 3 times previously. And yet there still seems like there was so much confusion. It seemed, we were not going to be, redistributing all of this acreage and doing an 80-20 split. That wasn't part of this whole process right now. We've already agreed on that. We've moved on. And I'm trying to sort of figure out what happened. And looking ahead as we continue to go through, with the development of the green track, what can we do better in terms of our communication that we, and I looked on the Town of Carrboro website, I don't see mention, I don't see a green track page on our website. I know there is one on the Orange County website. But this is all just to say, how can we do better as we move forward in terms of keeping the community really well informed in where we are in the process and what these votes mean as we move forward with the development. Thank you so much.
All right,
for
thank you, Susan.
all of you.
Thanks for those comments. We'll go to Sammy and then Randy.
Actually, Lydia, I've already spoken. I can go after Randy if you'd like.
Okay, all right, great. Thanks, Sammy. We'll go Randy and then go back to you.
Yeah, I just I wanted to thank everybody for the long slog of work that we've been doing on this green track question for quite some time. I want to echo what Barbara was saying. I remember when this land was designated for extended landfill operations, and we know that since the case of environmental justice and the work that Rena had done really turned around the thinking. I want to shout out to folks who for decades had a concept of the St. Paul's Village that really crystallized for the larger community that this area of land, not only is it historically Black-owned land, but also that there is a very clear community investment in creating a larger community within the Rogers Road community. So I feel like the time has come, and I'm really delighted we're moving forward. That said, Sunday I was out and I walked the land. I went out there with Terry Buckner, and she had a wonderful GPS, and we walked it. And I just want to say that the land is beautiful, and it's beautiful not only for the people who live there now, but the community that we're hoping to build around them. So thank you all for all your work, and Trish and folks for the work that you did to try and get the message out to community.
Thanks, Randy. Okay, we'll go back to Sammy.
Yeah, I just wanted to also express excitement, because it's rare that we have an opportunity as owners of a property to develop something, and we're so much at the behest of developers and the violent way in which they just plop something down that's cookie cut. So I really hope that we can not lose sight of that and really be as imaginative and creative in what we can accomplish with this project, obviously with leadership from the Rogers Road community. But one thing, for example, of what we could do is in terms of, in some of these maps, it shows a natural gas line. And it's becoming clearer and clearer. Natural gas is a fossil fuel that is one of the reasons why we are destroying the planet and creating inhabitable. And we wouldn't be able to require it of a private developer, but this being our own property, it's an opportunity for us to be thinking of not running a natural gas line. And similarly, in terms of setting it up so that we allow for diversity in architecture, for example, and ownership by creating subplots so that we can have people at small scale making developments. But anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. Obviously, this is all in the future as we have these discussions. But lastly, I just want to appreciate Barbara and Lydia hearing this language of approximate and interpreting it that way, because that's how I'm comfortable with voting this tonight. Even though we have affirmed this a couple of times before, we did receive more information, and it's not just for the recombination component of it, but it's also to inform how approximate we want to be in terms of how we're making this division. So I don't want this decision tonight to mean we moved on beyond whatever information we can glean from the environmental assessment, but rather really take tonight as an opportunity to state, like, we will be looking at the environmental assessment and jointly be thinking how we can reflect and accomplish the goals of everyone within our community. So I'm just wanted to share that. Thanks.
Thanks, Sammy. All right, we're getting close to a vote here, I think. Susan, your hand, you have another comment?
Yes, very quickly. I just have to add on to what Sammy says, because I feel like there's been some moments here where it's felt a little bit like we have felt pitted against one another in terms of how we divvy up the space between affordable housing and preservation. This should really be a celebration. We are taking 164 acres and we are preserving green space. We are building affordable housing. We are creating jobs. We are providing schooling for young people. We are building community right there in that 164 acres. So I think this is a time of just tremendous celebration, and I'm all the more excited about casting my vote in a little bit. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Susan. All right, anyone else? Any other comments? Let's see, Jackie?
Yeah, go ahead, Jackie.
Yeah.
I'll just after her.
Having introduced the resolution years ago, which led to the landfill not expanding onto that property, and later insisting that the land be preserved so that we could use it for future uses. I'm really glad to see this happening.
Mm-hmm.
When I made that motion many years ago to save Rogers Road from having the expansion of the landfill, and when I required that we have facilitated community meetings in order to have Rogers Road have their needs met. So since this is my last meeting, I'm really glad to see that coming full circle. And I'd like people to know about it.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
And I also find it really interesting that some of the people who don't want anything built there at all are the same people who want to pave Bowling Creek. I find that really interesting. So anyway, I will be voting for this.
Great. Thank you, Jackie. Okay, so I think
I'm sorry, Mayor.
Your
I
hand's
just
back
had
up.
one
Your hand
more.
back up, Barbara. Okay.
Yes, for 1 second. I wanted to kind of bring Minister Campbell into the space with his words. And he did say we should be able to determine what and how to build and to preserve at the same time. And we are people that have the intelligence to develop and preserve the environment at the same time. And I believe in us, and I think that we can do that. Thank you, Mayor.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Barbara. Nice way to round out the conversation. So we had a motion by Barbara of the resolution we received with Carrboro in it. I think Damon already seconded it, right, Damon?
All right.
Yeah,
sure.
I think it happened a little while ago. So all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Barbara?
Aye.
Damon?
Aye.
Jackie?
Aye.
Randy?
Aye.
Me? Aye. Sammy?
Aye.
Susan?
Aye.
All right. Woo. Way to go, y'all.
Unanimous, baby. That's what's up.
Unanimous, baby. That's right. All right, Mr. Manager, moving on to the next item.
The next item is discussion of town council liaison for the climate action team. The purpose of this item is to allow the town council to discuss changing the number of liaisons to the climate action team.
All right, so I think I suggested that you put this off till December, but I think that the council wanted to kind of talk about it tonight so we could know about this before you make your committee decisions in December. So I think Randy brought it up and wanted to discuss it. So let's start with Randy and then we'll go to Barbara.
Yeah, I brought this up because, as you all know, Sammy and I worked together on the Climate Action Task Force, and we've been working together on the climate action work with the Environmental Advisory Board and with the Climate Council. And I would hope that, we would be able to offer our services to continue and work together going forward, bringing a broad range of skills and expertise to this new group. So that's why I had requested expanding from 1 to 2 liaisons.
Okay. Further discussion. I guess I'll just make general comments that, we already have lots of boards and commissions, and we keep creating them. Every one of them, we have at least one liaison. Several of them, we now have 2 liaisons. This board is a workhorse. This council is a workhorse board, but whenever some of us aren't here, we might have a lot of positions to fill. We have, anyone can attend, any of us can attend as a liaison to any of these groups, even if we're not the official liaison. So I'm just kind of presenting a counterbalance to this. I have no objection to it, but I just wanted to kind of put that out there. So let's hear from others about that, how you feel about having 2 liaisons versus 1. I know we have them for some boards, we don't for some boards. So let's go to Barbara then.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Lavelle. I don't have a problem with it. I know that Councilmember Slade and Haven O'Donnell can work together with this new commission. It's a heavy lift. It's a lot of work. And so I can clearly see both of them just kind of sharing in that and as council liaisons, not to lead it, but to be a part of it and just kind of guide process, and answer questions and things like that. It's kind of like the Racial Equity Commission where Randy and I, we have 2 liaisons there. It's a new commission. And I feel like it's a good thing. We just have to play nice in the sandbox. That's all. Thanks.
Thanks, Barbara. And I appreciate what you said, that we're there as resources and liaison. We're not there to run the meeting or kind of we get to do that here, so let's go to Damon.
Yeah, I think that last point is really important. And Barbara, I think it's important that you raised it. As long as we're talking about the same thing when we say liaison, let's all be referring to our advisory board handbook. We've been very clear about what it means to be the liaison to an advisory board. It is to be there as a resource to talk about procedural kinds of things if the advisory board asks us questions about it, but not to be sort of, directing the conversation and so on. I don't have strong feelings about how many liaisons any particular advisory board has. I would just suggest that if we are going to make this particular change, that we maybe use language that says up to 2 liaisons so that we don't tie the hands of future councils and having to appoint 2 liaisons when maybe there's only need for one at that particular time. So just wanted to make that suggestion if we're going to go this direction. But again, I don't have strong feelings about it. So I'm happy to go either way.
Yeah, I like that going up to 2, that language. You're right, because that, as I say, that doesn't lock in a future board that might not have as many people that can fill as many roles and as many boards. So I think that's a good suggestion. If no one has any strong objection to that, we can take a motion on this. So would someone like to make a motion?
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
All right, Randy's moving it, Jackie's seconding it to have the town council number of town council liaisons be up to 2. Okay, right, Randy and Jackie, right?
That's fine.
Okay, all right, very good. If there's no further discussion, Barbara, your hand's up. Is that from earlier? I think it is. I can't see. All right, now it's off. Okay, all in favor, say aye. Randy?
Aye.
Damon?
Aye.
Jackie?
Aye.
Aye. Me? Aye. Sammy?
Aye.
Susan?
Aye.
And Barbara?
Aye.
All right, very good. So we are on our last item, y'all, before matters by council members, appointments to the Community Safety Task Force.
Yes, thank you all for getting your votes in. And the membership does say 5 to 7 members. There were 5 clear leaders in the voting results, but not 7. So I wanted to point that out. So there are 5, so enough to meet the minimum there. And I
think you sent me a list of, I thought you said it was 6.
Is it? Let me see. I'm looking, I've got the screen open and I'm working on Teams now, and I forgot that I was, and Teams was opening Word. Okay. I got 6. Yeah, there's 6.
Okay.
So there's just one, one seat that will be open, and then y'all can decide how you want to handle that in the future. But now I will read the names of the 6.
Well, Kathy,
George,
can I ask a question?
Yes.
Lydia, can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Do you have 7 people who have a majority of the council in support of them being appointed?
No, I have 6.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Are you ready for me to read those names?
Yeah, go ahead and read the 6, and then okay, go ahead.
Okay. George Barrett, Barbara Fetters, Benjamin Gear, Madison Hayes, Francis Henderson, and Mariela Hernandez.
Okay, so let's have a motion to appoint those 6 by Barbara, second by Damon. All in favor, say aye. Randy?
Aye.
Damon?
Aye.
Jackie?
Frozen.
Yeah, actually, I heard her say aye. Me, aye. Sammy?
Aye.
Susan?
Aye.
And Barbara?
Aye.
Okay, and then if we want to appoint a 7th, Kathy, what's the easiest way for you to do that? To have the council vote before the next meeting, I guess, before the January meeting, and appoint the person then, or what's or if the council might want to, I don't know. Let me actually, I see Damon's hands up. Let's call on Damon.
I mean, I'm if there wasn't another candidate who received a majority of votes, I mean, I'm fine with just appointing the 6. We said 5 to 7 when we designed the task force, and that, fits what we asked to do. I will note that the other issue is we need to appoint up to 3 council members to the task force, although I would suggest that maybe we wait to do that until the council's organizational meeting in December. I don't know that we need to force ourselves to pick a 7th if there's not good consensus about that.
Okay. So why don't we stick with the 6, and then at the next meeting, which is the organizational meeting, that's when you'll be figuring out the different assignments for the committees and all that kind of stuff, and so you can sort through that at that time. So, all right, very good. All right, so we're finished with that item then, y'all, right? Okay, and so the last.
Sorry, Lydia, may I just make a suggestion?
Sure.
I mean, would it make sense, like we did with the climate action team, to just send Kathy another preference of who maybe we would align, and if not, then just leave it as it is?
Well, I mean, so if we did that, the result of that wouldn't happen until the organizational meeting or the January meeting.
Sure.
So I think you guys could even discuss that at the organizational meeting, maybe, as you make your assignments or whatever, to if everyone wants to go that route or not. So I think that's kind of a decision. It's not a decision we could make tonight just because of how it's hard virtually to vote, on it. Let's see, we got Susan and then Barbara.
Yeah, I like that idea too, Sammy. I sort of feel like when you have people who want to serve and we've got the seat, let's give them an opportunity. So I would like to try to have another vote later and filling that 7th seat.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Susan. Barbara?
Yeah, I would like to have another vote too. I like 7. And I was going to ask our town clerk, I know I submitted 7. Did most of us submit 7 names and there was no commonality with anybody? Is that what it was? Everybody submitted 7, Catherine?
I would have to go back and check.
Oh, okay.
Just looking at the, it's my recollection that people submitted 7, and looking at
okay. We just didn't have any commonality. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, there's a close. Here's an option. We haven't done this before, and we are on Zoom, but I could read the names of the remaining candidates, and then you could email me now, if that's an option, and I could then.
That seems a little complicated. Why don't we do this? Why don't we email you between now and the organizational meeting, and you all could even appoint the person that night at the meeting? I mean, you're not limited to only the swearing ins. You know, you already have one consent agenda item. You could simply have that other appointment be on the consent agenda that night based on, you know, us emailing Kathy our choices of that. That's another way to go. Damon, is your hand back up?
I wouldn't add anybody to what I already voted for.
Yeah, okay. But it might be, well, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. Damon, did you have another comment?
I just agree that we shouldn't try to do it right now.
Yeah, let's not try to do it right now, but one possibility would be that, or just wait until that night and then everyone votes on one that night. You'll be in person. I mean, you know, that's a thought too, Damon, you know, it's sooner than later. I mean, it'll either be that night or January, you know, that you can.
Kathy wants to poll us between now and again, just to get a sense of where we are. That's fine. But yeah, I don't think we need to figure it out right now.
Yeah,
Okay.
we could do that, but I will do whatever you say, but the in-person process has been to pass out the paper ballots.
Yeah.
So it would be a change in process. I know we've switched to the email and you may want to continue to do that, but it would be a change in the process that we've used in the past.
Well,
yeah.
This is something we can talk about. You and Damon can kind of sort out how you want to do that for the next meeting. Okay. So we'll figure it out.
So I think Lydia's saying it's not her problem.
Lydia's still the mayor, but Lydia's
it's not her problem.
There's not another meeting between now and then that I would do it. I mean, so I don't like call a special meeting just to do it. So, you know,
I just feel, we'll talk about it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So then the last item, matters by council members. Sammy, you wanted to be sure to make that motion for that item.
Yeah, gosh, I can't remember what it was.
Do you want me to write you what it was? It was a motion for a future agenda item about the leaf blowers, the decibel leaf blowers, and the two-stroke engine, the engine thing, to have that on a future agenda.
On a work session.
Yeah.
So moved. Thanks, Lydia.
All right. Motion by Sammy, second by Randy. All in favor, say aye. Randy?
Aye.
Damon?
Aye.
Jackie?
Aye.
Me, aye. Sammy?
Aye.
Susan?
Aye.
Barbara?
Aye. Lydia, you still the mayor till December 7th.
I know. Listen, just hang in there. Don't do anything crazy, y'all. All right. All right. Motion to adjourn, everyone, until we see each other on December 7th. So, motion to adjourn by Damon, second by Sammy. All in favor, say aye, y'all. We'll see you then.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, all.